Okay. So good evening, everyone. On Zoom, we have Stephanie, Dr. Silver, and Dr. Johnson. In the classroom, we have Courtney, Victor, and Rick, Max, and I. You may hear people coming in, so I'd like to start class slowly. I have a few debts from last week that I'd love to talk about. The first thing is that I made a mistake last week. I wrote Israel wrong in the sense that I put the dot here, making it a sheen.
Oh, okay.
Israel. Israel is what it turns up. And of course, I rewatched the classes to make sure I didn't get anything wrong. In Israel, we know when the dot is on the left, it becomes an S sound. Good evening, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am. I just said I have a few debts and obligations from last week. I made a mistake writing Israel last week. I put the dot on the wrong side of the sheen, and then noticed that rewatching the class. And we said that we gave this as an example. We said we had a prefix here, le Israel, which means what? Which means to Israel. Le Israel. Let's write it down. El Israel. Yeah, that is also, sir. I'll touch on that in a second. Another weird things that Americans do that Israelis don't is treat the S as a Z. So Israeli, I will read this as Israel. This as well. So Israel, it's not Israel. Barring the fact that, yeah, that's how we talk in English. But as you can see, there's how we talk, and then there's what, how do we write? Le Israel, to Israel. Now, Victor just made a comment that El Israel, I'm gonna write it down. Okay. Transliterated, it will be El Israel. Which will also mean to Israel. To Israel. The reason we are learning the single letter prefix is because this is a different word. There are occasions, and I'll get to it further today, when a prefix is short for something. In this case, it is not. Le and el are two separate ways of saying two. Okay? Why did I stick to le? Because I figured, okay, it's one letter, it'll be easier. This adds a word, obviously, whereas the prefix, we said, conjoins to the word from the right with no space. Does that make sense? I do want to say that el, just like this, can also mean a God. Okay, so not the creator, but a single general God. So if we had multiple gods, which God are you talking about? El ha-shemesh, God of the sun. What else? Does that make sense? So I made that mistake last week. I wanted to correct it. Any questions on Zoom? Okay, good. I'm gonna let you finish writing that. And then another debt I have from last week is the word victor. Why do we use vav in the beginning rather than the vet? So as promised, sir, I delved into, I'm gonna share screen so you can see it too. Top the screen. So yeah, this one. Remove the camera boxes. So as you can see, this is what I did. I literally went to the HebrewAcademy.org. There is an English version to this. It's less extensive as it is in Hebrew, but basically it's here. Academy of Hebrew Language. I think I also put in the link in the workbook in one of the emails. But in essence, as Jeff predicted last week, I'm going to write it down as well. Why would it feel foreign when someone writes Victor with a vet rather than a vav? I'm going to erase the top and write it down. Victor. I'm going to write the other way down below it. Victor. So we have the two ways to write Victor. In the last week, I'm going to stop sharing so you can see my screen, my blackboard again. But last week we had that question, why will it feel foreign when we start with a vet? Note, we do not have the emphasis, making it sound like a V. Jeff made a comment, maybe because it's the start of the word, and the answer is yes. So what did they do in terms of rules and regulations of the grammar of the language? We said we have foreign sounds, and we said there are notions that are not in Hebrew, but we still need to learn how to address them anyway. And what they did, the rule they said is that at the beginning and middle of the word, we will use a vav, while at the end of the word, we will use a bet. I actually have some good examples here for other examples. Let's see here that they gave on the Academy of the Hebrew Tongue website. Let's write it down. So, anyone unclear about the rule? Good. I'm going to erase this so I can have room for other examples, just so you see what I mean. One of a very good example.
Do you know why there is this rule?
So this is the only page referring to this. A part of it, so they do give an explanation here. In the middle of the word, it is their recommendation to do this, these highlighted here, you see television, trivial, relevant, dividend, civilization, individual, all are in words that are not in Hebrew. and are in English, but we use them in Hebrew. Sorry. So yeah, that's their recommendation. They do say here that in the past they used to do that. You use the vet rather than the vav or double vavs. It doesn't say exactly why they say that. A part of it says here that is phonetic. I hope there was a better answer than that, ma'am, you know. Let's see. So I'll do two examples just to. Where was penguin? Yeah. Penguin. Truth be told, I'm not sure the ancient Hebrews knew about the existence of penguins at all.
Sealskin is mentioned in the Torah.
Sealskin?
Yeah.
Thank you for that fun fact. Penguin. Penguin. Okay, penguin is how you say penguin in Hebrew. Penguin. We see the vav here. I also want to caveat and say this is how you say it in correct Hebrew. Penguin. How will an Israeli say it? Penguin. So with two vowels. That's how an Israeli will say it. Maybe I should just write it separately. There you go. This I'll transliterate as penguin. Penguin. Both will work. For the sake of giving example for this rule, penguin. So this is in the middle of the word. And note that we also said that if you want to utter a W, in Israeli, what we'll do is usually double the vav. Penguin. Correct Hebrew, penguin. Israeli broken, how we actually speak Hebrew, penguin. Questions about that? And then another example, just so to relate to what the Academy of the Hebrew Tongue says on their website. Back to this. So I will transliterate this as the same as this, penguin. Sure, yeah, penguin. So the Academy of the Hebrew Tongue literally says you can do this. They advise to do this. But yeah, older. And when I say older in this case, I want to say 40 years ago, Israel, it would probably be very frequent to see this. I mean, my grandparents, and God rest some of them, I would see them do this a lot. Let's give an example of when it ends with a bet, like they recommend doing. Anyone think you can read this? motif, which means motif. That has motif. Is that how it's said in English?
Yeah.
That's a bad example. Sorry, but motif. That's again, that's foreign. How do I? I'm trying to do this. Motif ends with a vet. Let's see if they react to it. Here you go. Another example would be, I'm gonna write it instead of penguin. But as you can see, these are foreign. So in Hebrew, you kind of need to know of their existence. Israelis do, obviously. They write it collective. The next example is collective. So collective. In Hebrew, we will say collective, even though it's not in Hebrew, right? Collective. 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 And with a bet sound. Will it work with a double vav or with? It will work. As an Israeli used to that rule, I will be in a hurry, or I will understand this one faster. Same for penguin. Well, specifically penguin, we will say penguin. Does that make sense? Actually, did not want to get stuck on this as long, but I wanted to give a full answer. Does that answer you, sir? Most importantly? Okay, awesome. I'm gonna let you finish writing. But yeah, that's what I do. I go to the website of the Academy of Hebrew Tongue, which we spoke about. It's a foundation, first class. They still study Hebrew, meaning they still develop the language. They still, every year, they issue new words. We have our own dictionary people. So yeah, just to put it out there. So yeah, let's see what else. Okay. And then last week, so we spoke about the different prefixes. We did not finish them. What I want to do today is finish them and hopefully get started on pronouns. Going back to prefixes. Last time we spoke about be versus ba. Remember ba bet knesset, be bet knesset. Good evening, sir. I'm gonna erase board and speak about the regular example that I wanted to talk about. So we said this is where it kind of gets a little bit tricky, because many a times Israelis will use a different way to say something Americans will say. Meaning sometimes in order to say the same thing, we will not use the same way. This is one of those. And when we spoke about that prefix, be, ba, in, at, I also said it could be on. This is that example. And in order to do that example, I want to first do this word. Some of you may know it. Anyone want to try reading it? Yom. Wonderful. Yom. Anyone know what it means?
Day.
Day. Wonderful. And then if I want to say Tuesday, for example, you should have all the days on the workbook. Yom Shlishi. Shlishi means third. Dot on the right. Transliterated, it will be Shlishi, wonderful, man. Which means Tuesday. Where am I getting at here? What this example is. Let's say I add this prefix we were speaking about. Anyone read it now? Wonderful, sir. Beyom shlishi. Move there. Beyom shlishi. Beyom shlishi. We have the prefix. Which in essence, I will understand speaking in English is on Tuesday. In Hebrew, what does it mean? We just learned it means in or at, right? It still means in or at in Hebrew. It's just that now we need to know Americans won't say in Tuesday or at Tuesday. The Americans will say on Tuesday, right? Think of another example. So this is on Tuesday. All right, some calculation of space. Another example. I'm going to erase the top. Anyone want to try and read this? Mime, wonderful. Do we know what it means? Water, wonderful. This word, anyone want to try and read it? We have this, the chaf with the emphasis, making it a K sound. Ko. So this is where the samech looks like the final mem.
Yes.
No, by all means, don't be sorry. This is the, so yeah, the bottom of it will be kind of rounded.
Curved, yeah.
Kos, so means a glass, so like a water glass, a cup. So let's say hamayim, the water. We learned the prefix ha. Hamayim bakos. Hamayim bakos. The water is in the cup. Is implied. We're going to talk about it later today. But bakos, we spoke also about ba, meaning more specific. Ba bit knesset lumat. In comparison to le be bit knesset, if you remember the general versus specific, it's also true here. But the water is in the cup. In the cup. Even though the prefix is the same. Put aside the vowel. The vowel is because of the tonality. So specifically be, because it behaves differently in English, where an American will say on Tuesday, I am flying to Israel. The water is in the cup. I am at the synagogue. In Hebrew, we're not so fancy, but that's a gap that exists when I noticed that gap a lot when I notice it every day, speaking not my native language, let me tell you that. Sorry. So, is this understood on Zoom in the classroom? Any questions about this? Sorry, sometimes Tuesdays are a long work day and then I come here.
How would you say the cup is full?
Let me write it down, sir.
Don't say.
So let me ask you, sir. How do I say the cup? We know cup is kos. This prefix would change. Nice. The cup. And I'm gonna erase this here so I can keep answering Steve. So we already know half of the sentence. Hakos, the cup or glass, but glass not in the sense of the material, but in the sense of the utensil. Hakos melea. So kos, a cup is a female word, sir. We will get to it. But its adjective will also be female because it is female. And full in this case describes to us what the cup is. It's full. Kos melea. Melea. I'm going to transliterate and erase this.
Trying to fill your cup with more water than you can.
Sorry, sir?
The waitress is there trying to pour more water in your cup. A close yeah.
Yeah, yes, sir. Well done. I will say melea. It's one of those correctly uttering it will be melea. Speaking fast as an Israeli, I will say melea. So like this. Melea, both will work. Melea, melea, both will work. But yeah, just for the sake of saying it again, kos is a female noun. And it's also an irregular one because it ends with a no vowel sound. Meaning I would, learning a Hebrew, I would usually suspect it's male. Specifically, that one is irregular. Kos melea. Yeah, the cup is full. No, that actually tees me off, sir, to a wonderful comment that is important before we continue. We do have a few other prefixes that I will touch on. But in essence, just to say it again, and because we said it before, but I'm going to say it again later too, the verb to be does not exist in Hebrew. Okay, so Americans, they have this extensive I am, we are, it is, do we, do they. That's all a byproduct of the verb to be that does not exist in Hebrew. So for the sake of the matter, the water is in the cup. It's because it is implied. Okay? Reading this word to word, the water in cup. So the water is in the cup is implied. It does not exist in Hebrew. And it's one of those that is annoying. It takes repetition to get. We will get to it as well today, getting to pronouns. We will have practice, no worries. But it exists. Hakos, mle'ah, the cup, reading it just plainly, the cup, full. Understanding from context, okay, the cup is full. Questions about this on Zoom, in the classroom? Okay, good. That is the case. I will now move to other I have two more prefixes, three, I think. And then we'll get to pronouns. Okay. Any questions from last week? Anything that wasn't clear, by the way? I'm gonna start by erasing the top here. So the next prefix is one that we often see in the Bible. I'm going to write all iterations of it. Erase this. I'm going to transliterate. Okay, so yeah, starting from right. Yeah, wonderful, sir. Good job. These are all the same prefix with different vowels. Why? Because different words will need different tonalities to them. This means as or like. We call this the semblance cuff or the similarity cuff. Semblance cuff. Meaning it serves to say something is like something or as something. I will say this is short for a word, unlike el or le. It's short for this word. Mo. Mo. Mo, which will mean the same thing as or like. A short for this is that. What do we see most often in nowadays Israel is the kemo. However, in the biblical version, what you see most are these. And here's the thing, since Israelis do read the Bible a lot, you go to synagogue, you hear it a lot. There are words where you will use this just because it's more how you used to versus this. Example being, we remember the word melech, which means king. Melech, which means as a king. Don't remember where, it's definitely in the Bible somewhere. Right here. See the kaf there. We've encountered the word melech before, which means king. Melech, which means as a king. Trying to think of another example for kmo. Should be told there are a cajillion of them. I'm going to erase the top so I can write there.
Kamocha, is that the example?
Yes, ma'am. So kamocha is actually a tense of the word kemo. But yeah, let's write it down because it's a good example. Who is as you? Sorry?
Who's like you or he who's as you?
Yes, ma'am. Another rhetorical question, right? Me, who, means who. About to write in cursive. But as you can see, I'm not used to writing in in this way. Feels like block writing. And this time it kind of changes its tonality because it's tensed. Mi kamocha. So this is a question. We have the kamo here. We said words in Hebrew will have roots, they will build on them. I think 2 classes ago we spoke about chok, chakika, mechokeket, legislator, legislation, so on and so forth. So this is a very, in the biblical sense of Hebrew, they had to do more with less. We will possessive pronouns and how we do it in nowadays Hebrew. This is how it'll still work in nowadays Hebrew, but it's very biblical. Mika mocha. Why? Because the cha indicates someone we are talking about. We're talking about someone. In the biblical sense, Mika mocha, yeah, I mean, I'll immediately understand this is from the Bible. We're talking about the Creator. Will you hear it day to day? Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes you hear it.
Is the name Michael a derivative of this?
Yes, sir. So we spoke about Michael. Mikael, I'm going to write it down because it's a good example. Thank you for that. I'm going to erase here. So in essence, Mikael is almost saying the same thing. Who is as God, the Creator. Now we know this as a name, as Michael, but in essence it's 2 words and a prefix. So me means who or who is. We said that the to be is implied, so who is. Ka el Mikael. So we have the prefix here. We have the word el and the word mi. Mikael. Who is as God or the Creator. But as you can see, this is another biblical example. Another difficulty I have is that I need us to have a vocabulary to give examples, especially when we conjoin stuff.
What does mi kamocha actually say?
Who is as you?
In the prayer goes on to say,
Mi kamocha ba'elim, mi kamocha neidah b'kodesh. Who is as you among gods? Who is as you great in sanctiment or holiness? Does that make sense?
yeah, I mean, say it.
It's kind of a dismissing of other deities. Mi kamocha ba'elim, who is as you among gods. Does that make sense, sir?
Yeah.
Mhm.
She-
Yes, sir. Let's try a more common Israel example. So, for example, if I want to say I am like you, speaking to a male, I can say ani kamocha. I am like you. I am as you. Let's write it down. I'm going to erase Michael here so I can write the female version because kamocha speaks to a male. Remember that kmo means just like or as. This is an ending that signals possession. But just for the sake of right now, if I write or say, Ani kamocha, no matter who I am, if I'm a woman or a man, Ani kamocha, and speaking to a man, it'll mean I am as you, or I am like you. How will it speak to a woman? Ani kamoch. Kmo. I do want to say this is something I left out of this class because it's a complex notion or one that will be harder to learn. Whereas I know that kmo will work. Or I can also say ani kmo Steve. I am like Steve. Ani kmo Rick. I am like Rick. Rick. Does that make sense? I'm gonna write it down. That calculation of space. Ani, me or I am. Mo, Steve. I am like Steve, or I'm as Steve. Does that make sense, sir? So this is like a general like or as. There, as we can see, we do have a way of making it more fancy. Maybe later in the class we can dwell on it. For the sake of today, mo or ka, ke, mi, ka, el, mi, ka, mocha. Any questions about this on Zoom, in the classroom? Okay. Well, good. In that case, next prefix. We have two more. One of them I'm gonna leave as is because we kind of need it for verbs. I'm gonna erase the top. Don't think we did this last week. This is an easy one. The prefix or preposition in English, prefix in Hebrew, from. So, relations again for phonetic reasons. So me or mi. Transliterate. Me, kind of like me. Me in comparison to me. Note that this is not the word who, like this. This is just the prefix. So for example being, let's say I am from Cheyenne, for example. I'm gonna write it down. So ani, I am, me, both male and female. Ani. Dot on the left, right, Cheyenne. Me Cheyenne. Transliterate. Me Cheyenne. Cheyenne. Means I'm from Cheyenne. Will it work with me? Will. What do I feel comes natural to me? Me. Both will work though.
It's not an Israeli word, Cheyenne.
What do you mean, sir?
Well, I'm seeing it all the time writing words out the way they sound. I never saw that as a kid.
So this is specifically, this one is confusing because me is also a word, not just a prefix.
Yeah.
We just said mi kamocha, who is as you.
I mean, it's
From,
cool, but you're like spelling the words out using what they sound like.
I'm trying, yes, sir. Is it 100% also no? I feel like I'm getting as close as possible, sir.
No,
Does that make sense?
yeah, it's sounding names out instead of Shimon.
Mhm.
No one ever wrote a name out like Stephen.
And sir, this is why we're here, because I know people get to learning Hebrew from different motivations, sometimes it's a pain point for people, sometimes. So I'm trying to make it as easy as possible in the sense of how does it sound. A lot of the grammar rules are useless, sir, flat out.
Maybe what I'm saying is if I was in Israel and I said Cheyenne, I couldn't expect the guy to know what it is.
If you say Ani Mishayen, they'll probably not know that Cheyenne is a place.
Yeah.
So we can also say, you know what, to remove doubt, we're gonna erase the top. I'm from the city, Cheyenne, right? Does anyone know how to write, to say city? Sorry, sir? Ciudad? Ir. But also, this actually is a good point, because many a times, the prefixes can also come together. Okay. So, ani meha, from the city, ani meha. So there are two prefixes here. Meha ir. This is how we say city. Ir. We have two prefixes here. From the city, Cheyenne. I'm gonna write it here.
Pointed out something really important.
Sorry, sir?
You presented something really important. Because if you're in Mexico and they ask you where you're from, you go, I'm from Wyoming. You have to eventually say I'm from the Estadio de Wyoming. I have to tell them it's a state.
Okay, yes, sir.
Otherwise, I don't know.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so Steve's just made a comment that we need to be specific that we're talking about a city in Spanish. I do want to say for the sake of us being understood better in Hebrew, there are ways to remove doubt, yes. So, and this is a good example of how we sometimes have two prepositions, two prefixes. Ani, me, from, ha, we already know as the, meha, ani, I am from the city, Ir, Cheyenne. I'm from the city, Cheyenne.
So you don't need the word of, it's another word that you don't need, it's implied.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I can't say Beshem in the name of Cheyenne, but that's kind of overdoing it. Any questions about this?
Here's a good word.
Yeah, yes, sir. So Ir. I want to have actually another example because, yeah, there are you will see several prefixes come together many a times. Let's have another example. Anyone read this? Kelev. Well done, sir. Do anyone know what it means? Kelev means dog, a male dog. Kelev. Anyone want to try and read this?
Atul,
Katul. Well done. So chet with the kamatz, we know it's cha. We have the taf here with the vav with the dot here, which means it's u. So chatu l. Chatul. I know again we said technically there's a shva here, but because it's at the end of the word, we take it for granted. Chatul. Anyone knows what that means? Cat.
I was gonna guess cat.
Nice. Kelev, dog, male dog. I will say, yeah, that's male cat as well. So if I say hakelev, what does it mean? If I say hakelev, the dog, awesome. How about if I say hakelev veha chatul? And the cat, wonderful, man. See, it's very easy. Another example of two prefixes and then the word. So the dog and the cat. Any questions about this? Let's have another example of me. It's a good word, but I raised it up. I keep a me, I am. Does anyone more know what this word, how does it sound? Oh, well done, sir. We have our infamous missing cholam here. We gave another example of lo, kol, no, or every. So another one. It means here. Here. Transliterated as po. So ani po, I am here. If I say ani mi po, I'm from here. I'm from here. I'm gonna write it down. Ani po means I'm here. Ani mi po, I am from here. Again, the I am are implied. Is it annoying? Yes. That's life. Any questions so far on Zoom in the classroom? Awesome. I'll let you write down and check that I did not forget any examples. Okay, I'm gonna erase and move on. I'm gonna do another example and then move on. That's a good example. Can you erase here? Anyone want to try and write this?
Ideal?
Ragil, yes ma'am, ragil, which means ordinary or ordinary or yeah, or normal. Or usual, yes sir, usual. What happens when I say what happens when I add this prefix? Karagil. What does it mean now?
Like normal?
Yes, ma'am, as usual. As usual. Yes, ma'am. So you see how that's a step in your mind, because I'll read it as like normal. What will an American understand? As usual. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So if you remember, I spoke about how do we understand it literally versus how do I actually understand it. But we have the prefix ka, then the word ragil, ragil together. Karagil means as usual. Ragil. Again, ragil means usual or ordinary. Karagil, as usual. That was actually a good comment. Thank you for that. So yeah, that's the other example I wanted to give. Which I'm left with only one other prefix left. I'm gonna do it. Here's a caveat. I'm not gonna do it well because it needs to be attached to verbs, which is why we will be using it as we move on, and we will see it a lot, and you will hear it a lot if you watch the movies and stuff. I'm gonna erase the top. Now you have it on the workbook. I gotta say, preparing for this class, I was kind of worried that maybe I didn't write it well on the workbook. Let's see what page is it. Page 17, the top one, shit. Shit. I'm gonna write it down. So you may notice I wrote on the translation of it, that. So it's not in the sense of me pointing at something and saying that. It's in the sense of the thing that I have done. So it relates to verbs. Let's write it down. It does have two iterations that I forgot to do in the workbook. 2026 edition will be better. Dots on the right. So either she or just sh. As I said, we speak fast. Usually when people say shit. Think of an example. Let's do that right one. I'm gonna erase here and do it below because I'm gonna need some space. For once, I want to calculate the space well. I do want to wear commas down. As you can see, I repeat and repeat and repeat. We will do this a lot better when we get to verbs, but for the sake of being thorough, and this is a prefix that exists. What does this read to? What does it mean? What? Okay. Mashe. Amar. Sorry, sir? Mahash, no. So Shem is the literal word name. Ma Hashem, which means what is the name. Okay. Mash, there's no space here. Another example below it. Another one of those. Okay. So two examples. We know what at the beginning of both, what. So it's already, I'm already trying to either have a question or describe something. Mashe already speaks about what, that. So something that. So what does this mean? A, ma, ti, which means I said. Ma she'amarti is what that I had said. It's weird. Israelis speak different. In American English, it will be way more comfortable to say that which I have said. Actually, that will, yeah, that's how I'll understand it. That which I have said. Write it down. But the she here, we can see, relates to what is about to happen. What happened? I said something. It's one of those that is a little bit annoying because, yeah, as you can see, in English, it will be way more comfortable to speak differently, slightly. We just saw how we'll understand something literally, but there will be a social, cultural, whatever other aspect that makes us understand it as a different way. Another easier example.
You say that again, though, literally.
Mashe amati, what that I have said.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions about that? I can feel on myself struggling with this one a little bit. So by all means, if you need me to do 10, I will.
Ma is mine.
Say that again, sir?
You're saying that ma is mine.
I don't think I understood, sir.
That letter stands.
Here?
Yeah.
Ma, which means what? Is it like ma as in mother? Is you're asking what you're asking?
No, well, ma shem shali, my name.
Yeah, my name is. Yes, sir.
Okay.
So yeah, my name is Ma Shem Sheli. What name mine? Is the literal way I'll understand it, sir. But then I understand it further. The further step in my mind is what's my name? I'm gonna write it down too. I'm gonna erase the top. So it doesn't have a prefix, sir, just for the sake of the matter, but to address it. For Mahashem Shili, what is the name of mine? All right. Mahashem Sheli. Sheli is possession. It's me, it means mine. We did not get to it yet. We will. Sheli. Mahashem Sheli. What is the name of mine? Which we understand. What's my name? Does that make sense, sir?
Yeah, without writing it down, how would I ask somebody what their name is?
Ma Hashem Shelcha, or speaking to a female, Shelach. It's possessive pronouns. We will get to it, sir.
It would-
Does that make sense?
Yeah, what's your name?
I do want to say, so when you say it in English, what is the name of you? It sounds, you can hear it being ancient. I don't hear it being ancient in Hebrew. It just sounds normal. But then, yeah, you kind of realize it. Any questions about this before I go on? I want to do the bottom example. Kara, we can see the prefix here, means happened. Ma shekara, it means literally means what that had happened. What that had happened. Ma shekara. In usual American English, I'll understand what happened, or with that which has happened. That which has happened. Does that make sense? Again, I'm doing this today. It will be more useful or utilitarian when we actually get to verbs, which is soon. But I wanted to put this here because it belongs here. Any questions? Ma shekara. That what that had happened. I'm gonna erase the top and give us an abbreviation of all of these prefixes that will make it easier to remember them. I'll do my best to send some videos that will help too. So, and that's all, that's really why I send the movies and everything, less so the music in the sense of she. In the movies, you'll hear it a lot more. This is an abbreviation. This is how we will signal this stands for something. Who said that? Moshe? Yes, ma'am. This is how you write Moses without. This is how you write Moses. This means it stands for something. What did we say this word means? Kelev, dog. Moses and the dog. Moshe v'Kelev. That's an abbreviation or an alliteration that they came up for all the prefixes in Hebrew. Me, she, ha, ve, ke, le, and be. But yeah, so Moshe v'Kelev. Wrapping up all of our prefixes. So 7. Any questions at home, on the Zoom, in the classroom? Good. Okay. So I'm gonna move to pronouns. Me, I am, we kind of did, I, me. You, he, she, it, and all of that goodness. You may notice we have two groups of the pronouns, either singular pronouns that speak about a single, either individual or an it, or plural pronouns that speak about a group of people or a group of whatever it is we're speaking about. I'm gonna erase Moses and a dog and everything and get started on singular pronouns. Now I want to remind us, Hebrew is gendered. So there's a difference between speaking me as a lone male Me is a lone female. Speaking to a lone male or a lone female. Or a group of both. So let's start. And you have this on pages 22 and 23 on the workbook. We spoke about ani. Ani is unisex, both sexes. So I will refer to myself as ani. A woman will refer to herself as ani, same way. But in essence, it will mean me. I am. Again, the am, the verb to be, that's implied. Since we touched on that, I'm going to immediately go to you. Let's say I'm speaking to someone, I'm speaking to you. A you can be either male or a female. Okay? So I'm going to write both examples. So this is addressing a male. Okay, so not speaking as a male, addressing a male. Atarik, are you Rick? Versus, so you, so this will mean you or you are. Addressing someone. So let's say I want to ask someone, are you Rick? Atarik? Ken, ani Rick. Thank you for that. Addressing a female. At. And you may notice there's an emphasis on the tough here. We usually don't see it. Why do we see it here? Because we want to make sure we utter this. At. So that's where the emphasis comes from. We do have no vowel here. So it's not ta, te, ti. It's at. At. Which also mean you or you are. Except speaking to a female.
It's a different vowel between the you male and the you feminine.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, page 22 and the bottom, there's this table here. Line 3 from the top is the single female. Above that, ata. You are ata, single male. Page 22. Do you not have it? Okay.
It's the same vowel there, but
Are you seeing something different, ma'am?
Yeah.
Can you point me to it? I'm not sure I'm seeing it.
the you male is not the same vowel as the you female on the board. And the hour.
Oh yeah. Here, yeah. So that's not a kamas. Atach. Yes, ma'am. At. Any other questions?
More complicated.
It's really not, sir. So this is why I don't want to get caught up on stuff like this. It's more important for me that you remember the sound. It is important that we know the difference, but in terms of how functional will it be, both will work. And again, I'm trying to make that as obvious as possible. But yeah, as you can see, I'll make mistakes as well. Sorry? Please.
So most of the Hebrew, there's like Hebrew writing and talking. Do we not pay attention to that?
Right.
Even I don't know where to put it. When it's patah, it comes.
The only reason I ask is that sometimes there is a reason why the vowel changes.
Yeah,
So I
but
didn't
not
know-
patach, not kamatz, but the kamatz can be yes when you say like oniya. So you have the kamatz, katan, we call it, like but it's.
The difference is the,
Yeah.
how deep it is.
Yeah, but patach and kamatz is the same, exactly like tzere and tzegol. Same thing, the
Mhm.
double,
Mhm.
same thing.
Basically interchangeable.
Yeah, but no
I
one
do want to
always
say, ma'am,
put
it was a good question. I don't want to deter you from asking. Please continue doing stuff like this. Please continue. But yeah, the difference will be in the tonality. Will we notice it day to day in Israel? Probably not. Is that clear? But for the sake of how does this work? If I address you at, you will, it's like me saying you, hey at. If I say me at, who are you? And you can say Phyllis, ani Phyllis. So these are addressing someone, okay? I'm not talking about myself like in the case of ani. This is I'm addressing someone. Atarik, ken, lo. At Phyllis, ken, lo. So on and so forth. Any questions about this? If you want to translate. At and that.
Do they have male and female as far as like somebody is? Bonita, bonito.
Yes, sir. So someone who's beautiful. Yes, sir. Yafe or yafa, yes, sir.
So it's A or A.
I'm gonna write it down since you said it. Down here.
That makes it a little easier. So,
Yafe. We have the pay without the emphasis. Yafe.
that's fine with me, but
Sorry?
No.
Beautiful. Hope you can see this on Zoom. That's a male, something male that is beautiful. How do I say male, female, something that is beautiful? Yafa. Well done.
well, Phyllis is beautiful, that would be.
How would you say it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Phyllis yafa. Phyllis is beautiful. Yafa.
Can,
Yeah, in the front, really.
Yafa. It can also be pretty, yeah. Yafa, yafe means beautiful. Again, the is implied. So if I want to say
Okay, that-
Phyllis is beautiful, it's Phyllis yafa. Or ani yafe, I am beautiful. Because I'm a male. If I were a female and I would say ani yafa, that's the correct. Questions about this? Okay. I'm gonna move on to he and she. We are kind of running out of time. Let's see how I'm doing after that. Anyone want to read this? Well done, man. Who? Versus, who just said that? He. So this is male. Male. Who means he, or he is. He means she, or she is. And yes, we have this wordplay where who means he, and then he means she, yeah. He means she or she is. So we just said, for example, he yafa, she is beautiful. Hu yafe, he is beautiful. Hu rik, he is Rick. He called me, she is Courtney. Questions about this? On Zoom? Okay, good. And we do have examples and we will practice this if I'm not today, next week, definitely. I am taking into consideration the time. And then I want to talk about it. So an it can be either male or female. We spoke about dog, kelev. I think in previous classes I also gave the word of female dog, kalba. So again, that's to say that it can either be male or female. The male. Well, I was about to write it for a second. Anyone want to read this? Z, well done. Z. So that's an it that is male. It. Z kelev. It is a dog. Z kise. It is a chair. Versus female. Translating. Zo. 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 So it's a female. Zo kalba, it is a dog, that's female. Do we see this often? I do want to say specifically about these two. It's one of those that Israelis always get wrong. So we will usually see this used for both. It's not correct. We will see more examples. Does that make sense so far for right now? On Zoom. Okay. Time, I think, for one more example. I'll do one more example and then summarize. I'm gonna erase the top. Now this one may be familiar to some, and the sound should be familiar. This is another both sexes one, like ani. Vowel it. Yeah. Anyone want to try and read this? Nice. Well done, both. Anachnu. Which means us, or we are. Us. We are. Sorry, there was a question. Us, we, or we are. Anachnu mi Cheyenne. We are from Cheyenne. Anachnu me America. We are from America. Sorry? Anachnu korim. We are reading. Reading. So that's a verb. We will get to that verb, sir. It's well done. Anachnu korim. Steve said, we are reading. Maybe I'll write it down. I'm going to erase she. But for the sake of the matter, what I'm trying to portray here is that what we build adds up on itself. So all the prefixes will build up on this as well. Anachnu vehu, us and him. Anachnu korim, we did not get the verbs yet, we will, but since it's a good example. אנחנו קוראים apostrophe here because it's קוראים. It means we are reading. Reading. אנחנו קוראים. קוראים. Sorry, that's already that all the way. קוראים. אנחנו קוראים. We are reading. So yeah, I am kind of out of time. I'll summarize real quick by going to the presentation. And I do want to remind us that there are further examples on the presentation that I just don't have the time to get to. Let's see here, present. Pronouns. Okay. I'll get to this next step. So I will continue this next week because I did not finish this. I do want to just to reiterate and recap for today. Remember, the prefixes can come together and add on to each other, not just come alone. We saw the examples of veha and the. We finished prefixes today. Remember, Moshe v'kelev, Moses and the dog. Those are all the prefixes. We saw that the transliteration and the translations are problematic. There's what the literal translation will say and how will I draw the actual meaning from it. So mind that. What I'll do next week is finish the other prepositions and we will do more practice. Remember, the verb to be does not exist in Hebrew. I am, we are, do they, do we. Those do not exist in Hebrew. We need to kind of remember it by heart, which is why I say listen to the music, read, watch the the movies. I will try and send some funny videos, some cooking videos. By now there are a lot of Israelis living in America, so they make a lot of videos, and you can hear their Hebrew. I always refer to Noam, as you can hear his Hebrew very directly, like reading with vowels. Other than that, I do want to say my printing of the, and this is to say to you again as well, Stephanie, ma'am. The print did not work. Office Depot had to cancel it and resubmit it, which is why I did not have extra copies for today. And I have some people I need to give them to. So that'll be next week. I did not finish the pronouns. But for the sake of next lesson, if you want to do 22 to 29, some of it is going to be stuff we did not do yet, like 27 and 28. But it's easy. It's basically question words that some of them we did touch on. If you want to wait for me on it, sure, I will probably not be able to do them all. So for the sake of the matter, for next week, 22 to 29, there are things that I did not do. I will next week. Sorry, that was a long while. That was a long explanation. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for attending. I appreciate you. Please, by all means, for the love of God, listen to the music, watch the movies, immerse yourself in Hebrew.
That you put down if you get, I think it's on Netflix.
There are a lot, sir. I think I gave a bunch of recommendations.
Unbelievable. It's so adorable. We watched all 12.
Yeah, there are good ones, sir. And it also, good cop. Yeah, that's Carol likes this one. Hashoter Hatov, the cop, the good. Yeah, Yuval Semo, he's a comedian, one of the most successful ones in Israel. And I will say, Stephanie, ma'am, we can probably stop recording here.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. But sir, as you can see, the series, the movies gives you a lot of, it gives you a lot of cultural context. The movies and the series gives you a lot of cultural context.